Callahan, and you're watching Channel 5 News. This video features both interviews conducted in northern Israel and southern Lebanon at the exact same time. On the Israeli front, we have our two-time correspondent Agat Schwartz, who interviews a regional IDF commander and local residents who refuse to leave the conflict zone despite bold government warnings. And in Lebanon, we have our recently displaced guest correspondent, Wael, who interviews civilians affected by Israeli airstrikes.
Israel is the only reason to blame.
Well, obviously, it's the Shia Muslims to blame because they initiated the fucking war.
And spends time in a homeless encampment where people have gathered to seek shelter and await government aid. But that's not all. We also sent a camera crew to interview a senior Hezbollah official who speaks on record for the first time ever.
Hezbollah did a preemptive move to defend Gaza and Lebanon. It struck and opened fire on Israel to keep it busy, weaken it, and foil its plan.
He only published this 6 days ago. I don't know when he filmed this. It had to have been, like, what, a couple months? I don't know if he's going to add some commentary here because, like, that's clearly a lie and stupid, and what he's saying is just so out of date.
If they have a war with Hezbollah, why did they kill my mother and sister? Why did they hit all our buildings?
Airstrikes have hit the southern suburbs of Beirut in the past few hours.
Here's supposed to be my room. Here is one of my sports shirts, and this is my pillow.
In southern Beirut, there was a strike next to the biggest government hospital in the country, in which 4 people were killed, including a child.
Civilian peoples, one of them is an insurance company, one of them is a bus driver. Why? Because they live in this building, they are killed. For what reason?
We've been told by the Israelis that they're now going after Hezbollah.
Here we go with the terrorist apologia.
This financial infrastructure.
Israel would strike this building.
They want to hit this place, they hit this place. They know that nobody will ask them, why did you do this?
هو الإسرائيلي بس ما هم يعمل دمار.
Yeah, so this is obviously fucking bullshit. They strike these areas because they were, you know, military objectives that were of some strategic advantage. Hezbollah embedded themselves there. There were weapons in that area. They had weapons caches, shit like that. But, yes, Israel is evil and the Jews are all evil. That's why the righteous Hitler tried to wipe them all out. But unfortunately, he was unsuccessful, and that's why we support Hezbollah. Fucking
هو
idiots.
بيقصف مدنية وبيقول إنه نحن اختلنا حدا ونحن ضربنا مصنع صواريخ. هون في مصنع صواريخ، بيوت عشوائية وما في مصنع صواريخ.
Oh, they say our building is a rocket factory. Who said that? When?
حدا ونحن ضربنا مصنع صواريخ. هون في مصنع صواريخ، بيوت عشوائية وما في مصنع صواريخ.
Like, just imagine this narrative. You have weapons that cost so much fucking money. Like, for low-yield explosives, you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars. For higher-yield explosives, like, you're getting into the 6-figure range for some of these weapons. Of all the ways you could waste that kind of money, like, you know, airstriking, you know, like an airstrike like this costing at least, you know, 50 grand, if not more, you use it to blow up some shitty fucking, like, building that looks like it ought to be bulldozed in the fucking desert where there's a bunch of fucktards with, like, menial jobs who just work at, like, a grocery store or something, and you waste, like, what, $100,000 worth of military equipment to blow up this shit fucking building that's, like, made out of fucking, like, just mud? It doesn't make any sense. Of all ways to waste money, you think Jews just, like, blowing up people's mud huts in the fucking desert? It's just stupid. Like, these people are just fucking lying cunts. Bend over to Nation Extinction Games.
في مصنع صواريخ، بيوت عشوائية وما في مصنع صواريخ. ما في شيء هون.
As usual, most of the victims were civilians, including women and children.
As long as Hezbollah chooses the path of war, that's exactly what we're doing.
To get...
What do they mean most victims are women and children? Care to actually provide evidence for that? What do they mean by victim?
A more academic perspective on the conflict, we decided to sit down with a familiar face, Dr. James Gelvin.
My name is James Gelvin. I'm a professor of Middle Eastern history at UCLA.
As some of you may recall, Professor Gelvin once walked us through the Israel-Hamas conflict in the wake of the October 7th attacks. So I figured he was the guy to speak about Hezbollah. What is Hezbollah?
Hezbollah is a Shi'i organization that represents the Shi'i community of Lebanon. It started out as a social service organization, actually an ambulance corps.
Hezbollah supporters say
that's a complete lie. This dude is lying. They are literally just a criminal organization. Nobody in Lebanon actually likes them, even other Shias. They massacred fucking Christians and also targeted Sunni Muslims in their fucking country. They're backed by Iran, and they make most of their money from drug and human trafficking. They're literally a criminal organization. They even strong-arm the government and kill politicians that are critical of them. And this guy's like, well, they're kind of like a political group that just represents a certain community in Lebanon. Yeah, UCLA professor. That's what you get.
The group provides them with key social and economic support.
And then moved on to other things. Now it's got a political role. There are...
Hezbollah helped Bashar al-Assad massacre his own fucking people. They're partially responsible for the over 350,000 civilian casualties in Syria during the Syrian civil war. And after they pulled out of Syria, they actually just kidnapped thousands of fucking Syrian women, trafficked them into Lebanon, and forced them into fucking prostitution. And they make money off of these women who are being used as fucking sex slaves. And this guy is saying, oh yeah, they're just a political group that helps, the economy. They help represent, the citizens there. Really? By doing international fucking sex trafficking? Like, fuck you. These people are pieces of shit. Why the fuck? You can literally look this shit up on Wikipedia. Just a Google search. You can find out how they make fucking money. It's mostly human trafficking and drug dealing. They sell, heroin, crystal meth is a big one now. They're probably trafficking fentanyl at this point because it's just cheaper and easier to make. Why in the fuck would he put this horseshit on his fucking YouTube channel when all he had to do was do a quick fucking Google search and immediately figure out this fucking professor is completely and utterly full of shit?
There are 15 members, I believe, of Hezbollah in parliament. It's not a majority faction, but it works with other factions as well, and it's got a militia.
As he explains, Hezbollah didn't begin as a posse of lobbyists or politicians, but in 1982 as a civilian militia during the Lebanese Civil War. After the Civil War ended in 1990, every other militia, and there were many, were disarmed and disbanded after a ceasefire agreement, except for Hezbollah, who were tasked with driving the Israeli army out of the country.
And Hezbollah is the only...
That is not true. That is also completely fucking untrue. They were always a criminal enterprise. They ended up being backed by Iran, and they're literally like, Colombian drug cartels. They were never tasked with driving Israel out of the country. That's just one of the cynical claims they made so that there wouldn't be political pressure against them to disband. And again, in the 1980s, the only reason Israel fucking invaded Lebanon was because the PLO was launching rockets from fucking southern Lebanon. They weren't even attacking the fucking Lebanese.
Only militia coming out of the Civil War that was allowed to maintain its weaponry. All the other ones were disarmed, and now all the warlords from the Civil War are...
Yeah, they were able to maintain their weaponry because they threatened to kill politicians. That's the only fucking reason. They're a criminal organization. They were able to scare enough fucking politicians in Lebanon so that they wouldn't get their arms taken away.
Are basically politicians running their operations through the political process.
In rebuilding the country after the Civil War, Lebanon became a parliamentary republic, wherein their government is composed of 16 different political parties who mostly can't agree on anything, leading to total stagnation and economic depression.
In Lebanon, you don't have a government. You have a complete economic meltdown. That started in 2020 or so, 2019 actually. You've had a series of rolling protests that have begun starting in 2019 as well. But the economic situation in Lebanon is devastating. You have close to 80% of your population now living in poverty. You have mass emigration from Lebanon.
Hezbollah literally has billions of fucking dollars locked away in underground fucking vaults. Some of that money they've gotten from, again, human trafficking and drug trafficking. Some of that money they just get from Iran. Well, how about helping, since they're, they're just a political party that, just tries to help, people that's all they do. They just want to help the Lebanese, and they're a member of government. Why don't they use some of this money to help stimulate the economy? Why is it all locked under underground safes with heavily armed fucking guards? They literally put this underneath a fucking hospital to disincentivize Israel from actually striking it and destroying all their fucking cash reserves. Why don't they use that money to stimulate the fucking Lebanese economy and give people jobs? Oh, I wonder if it's because they're a criminal enterprise? Jackass? Is he not going to mention that at any point in this fucking video?
And to make matters worse, Israeli bombardment of the country's commercial center has led to Lebanon's largest refugee crisis since the Civil War ended in 1990.
There have been about 3,500 casualties, and there's been about 1.5 million internally displaced people who had to leave their homes because they were under bombardment. There have been about 450,000 people who went off the border.
Whose fault is that? Blame fucking Hezbollah.
Seeking sanctuary in Syria of all places, and most of those were Syrian refugees to begin with. But the very fact that they decided that Syria was safer than Lebanon demonstrates something. I think. They're bombing cities, bombing Beirut.
One of the Lebanese citizens displaced by Israeli bombardment is our guest correspondent, who wanted to give Channel 5 viewers a boots on the ground perspective.
So, please explain to me why they're making a big deal about fucking Israel displacing these people and making it seem as though Hezbollah is this, like, noble organization that just wants to protect Lebanon. Why aren't they talking about how Hezbollah massacred fucking Christians, killed them, forced them to fucking flee, and Lebanon used to be a majority Christian country. Once Hezbollah, gained power, they started massacring fucking Christians and either killed them all off or they were forced to flee to neighboring countries. Why aren't they talking about that? Why aren't they talking about how Hezbollah fucking displaced a majority Christian population and now turned fucking Lebanon into majority Muslim? If they have a problem with people being displaced, why are they only criticizing Israel for doing it and not fucking Hezbollah? They even mentioned Syria. Hezbollah helped the Assad regime, and they helped Assad massacre 350,000 Syrian civilians. Why aren't they mentioning that? Oh, it's weird. It's almost as if this fucking documentary is anti-Semitic propaganda.
Of the situation unfolding in Dahi, a Shia majority suburb of Beirut regarded as being the center of Hezbollah activity in the region. So much like in Gaza, Israel has been airstriking whole apartment blocks, office buildings, hospitals in the area, claiming to be targeting Hezbollah militants. And unfortunately,
they did not target hospitals. That's a lie.
Many civilians have been caught in the crossfire.
The United Nations has warned about Lebanon becoming another Gaza.
I mean, look, basically the number of civilians that are being killed, we're talking about casualty figures about 70.
Bro, they're complaining about civilian areas getting bombed. The Beirut explosion in 2020. This was the Beirut explosion in 2020. Hezbollah had a large cache of fucking explosives right in the middle of the fucking city. How many people died from the Beirut explosion? 218. So from one explosion, which was caused by Hezbollah, they had a large cache of fucking explosives right in the middle of the fucking city. Look at this. Like, it's absolutely fucking crazy how huge that fucking explosion was. But for some reason, when the Jews aren't to blame, who cares, whatever, everybody makes mistakes, right? But when Israel is taking out legitimate military targets, oh, Jews are evil, Jews bad, but yeah, Hezbollah causes a huge explosion that kills over 200 people and destroys people's fucking homes, businesses, livelihoods. Oh, well, they just want to help, they're just a political force in Lebanon, and they just want to help the Lebanese people. Just sick.
% of the deaths are civilian deaths. We're talking about apartment blocks being blown up. We're talking about infrastructure being destroyed. We're talking about women and children being killed.
Here's the scene on the ground.
Hello, my name is Wael, reporting for Channel 5 Lebanon. I live in Beirut, in Dahi, which means suburbs. I had to move away from my house when Israel started bombing Dahi. A fifth of the population is displaced like me right now. When the Israeli army bombs Dahi, sometimes they would issue no warnings at all prior to their strikes, but sometimes they would do via Twitter. Not everyone have Twitter in Lebanon. I take my family as an example, a family of 5, and I'm the only one who has Twitter. So few people would know about these evacuations. And even when people know, sometimes the Israeli army would start striking 10 minutes after the warnings, which is not enough time for people to get out of their houses and get to safe places at all. Some people lost everything in this war, and we try to speak to some of them.
We were sitting in the living room about 4 p.m. We heard a big sound of explosion here, and we saw a big dust coming from down. My mom came out from her room. I went to the kitchen and I brought for her a bottle of water. She didn't drink because she was so scared. I heard the same sound another time. I told them, run, the building is being bombed. My mom ran out of the house.
By the way, again, these are the same people who are so cowardly and complacent, they let a international terrorist drug dealing sex trafficking ring actually have control of their government. They do nothing about it. And then they blame Israel for responding to terror attacks made by this international terrorist drug and sex trafficking organization. Absolutely no accountability whatsoever. It's all Israel's fault.
I guess she reached the second floor.
Imagine if World War II happened today and you had news crews like this going down to Dresden and interviewing civilians there, and they said, we got no warning for the Dresden bombing. They just started bombing all over the place, and they're destroying civilian infrastructure. Yeah, buddy, you elected fucking Nazi leadership that's exterminating fucking Jews, invading other countries, and massacring innocent people. No one would view shit like that in that sort of context where, oh, civilians are dying? Oh, it's completely unethical? No, we recognize this is a result of fucking warfare, And if you allow fucking assholes like Nazis or terrorists and shit to run your country and attack other countries, there's consequences for that. So maybe learn to not be politically complacent and allow these shitheads to fucking run your country.
This is the max. Julia was trying to follow her. I went to my room to bring a t-shirt to wear it and run behind them. Then I felt the building was going down and going to the right. After the building was completely on the floor, I started shouting by their names to know where they are. My mother was the first one who was took from the building alive, but she was having bleeding on her abdominal, and the operation after 20 to 30 minutes, she passed away. Julia, they found her about 12 midnight. Yes, she was dead because of lack of oxygen.
How do you feel, Asaf, going back here to this site where your family members were killed?
Maybe it's the hardest question. Maybe I lost feelings. I lost how to feel from now on.
What do you think about the assessment of Hezbollah as a terror organization?
I think it commits acts of terrorism. It certainly targets civilian populations, which is a very definite definition of terrorism. They were behind the explosion in the Marine barracks in Beirut in 1983 that killed the largest number of Americans to die out of battle, ever, Marines in particular. They murdered the head of the American University in Beirut, Malcolm Kerr. They probably murdered the Prime Minister of Lebanon, with the idea being that the Syrians didn't particularly like him, and so they did either.
And the attack on a Jewish community center in Buenos Aires, when it became the first designated...
Yeah, by the way, again, he's not mentioning the Syrian civil war, their part to play in that fucking massacre. He's also not mentioning the sex trafficking rings and the drug trafficking they do.
The terror group to use suicide bombings.
What the Europeans have done is they differentiated between the political wing of Hezbollah and the military wing of Hezbollah. They've had to do that because, basically, if you're going to have Hezbollah in the government of Lebanon, you can consider the Hezbollah to be a terrorist organization. You can't talk to the government of Lebanon. Europeans have figured out a way around that. Now they consider Hezbollah to be a terrorist organization again.
You think Israel is guilty of war crimes?
I think Israel is responsible for needless civilian deaths. Too many of them, 43,000, 44,000 Palestinian deaths in Gaza, which is a huge...
Here we go. So that's the total estimated death figure. That doesn't discriminate between Hamas members, Hamas militants, and civilians. This guy is a anti-Semitic fucking cuck who's trying to gaslight people into thinking Israel is basically in the wrong in general for what they're doing. When somebody throws out that they've killed 44,000 people in Gaza, when they throw out that figure, they're immediately being dishonest anti-Semites. If they were to say something like the total death toll is 44,000, it's estimated roughly half of them are civilians, that's something entirely different.
Huge number. It's larger than any other group that the Israelis have fought against. So I think that the Israelis have done with either war crimes or the equivalent of war crimes.
I'll provide a direct example. Just a few days before our team began their coverage in Lebanon, there was an airstrike on a prominent university hospital that killed 4.
It came just hours after Israel released a video claiming a Hezbollah bunker is underneath another major hospital.
Israeli military officials said that beneath the Al-Sahel hospital was a large underground bunker used by Hezbollah to store large quantities of weapons and cash.
There are hundreds of millions of...
This is being proven, by the way. Nobody likes Hezbollah. Israel has tons of fucking moles and people who are just ratting out Hezbollah constantly. There were independent journalists in Lebanon who investigated this, by the way, and they were able to prove that, yes, indeed, Hezbollah does have huge stores of money underneath this hospital. They went to the buildings that were, adjacent to this hospital, and they had heavily armed guards guarding these fucking buildings, and they were told to fuck off and leave. They weren't allowed to investigate. They wouldn't answer any fucking questions about the money thing. It's obvious what it is. So this has been absolutely proven. I wonder if he's going to share that bullshit news story by, what was it? MSNBC or some shit, where they went into the hospital and, gaslit everybody into saying, well, we didn't see anything.
Of dollars in cash and gold. However, we will not strike the hospital itself.
Instead of striking the hospital itself, they struck the buildings surrounding a different hospital, killing 18 and wounding hundreds.
The man in the red baseball cap is looking for his son.
Here's an interview with the best friend of one of the youngest victims. Watch carefully as his psychology shifts throughout the interview.
Oh my god, dude. Oh my god. So, Israel's getting criticized for attacking a legitimate military target. They warned everyone ahead of time they're going to fucking take out this objective, and now they're fucking crying that people were stupid enough to be around these fucking buildings after Israel announced this. No accountability whatsoever.
أنا من سكان المنطقة من هون وخسرنا كثير عالم بنحبها من هون نحن. خسرت رفيق جواد، خسرت حدا كثير عزيز على قلبي.
Dude, what is this guy, 5'5"? That's a nice gay haircut, dude. Oh my god, is everybody a pussy?
هو الفيقة وقضيت معه أيام حلوة، كنا ناكل ونشرب سوا ونضحك نكذب سوا ونلعب وهيك، يعني كنا هيك قاعدين فجأة عم نلعب نسمع صوت ضرب نطلع كنا بقول إنه حدا بالمستشفى، يعني أنا دخلت التليفون دقيت له أول واحد ما كان يرد علي، ضل من وقت تحت الراديو 3 الصبح طلعوني تحت الراديو وجانا خبر من المستشفى.
A child among the dead.
تعرف الجثة وقت اللي جواب؟
Oh, notice that? That's a huge giveaway. He was martyred. These people are insane. Why would you give them any fucking sympathy? They're crazy anti-Semitic fucking wackos who are part of a death cult, and they think their friend is going to get 72 virgins in heaven because he was fighting for Islam and killed by Israel. ridiculous. Why would you give these people any fucking sympathy?
الصباح يطلعون تحت الردم وجانا خبر من المستشهد.
A child among the dead.
بس فوجئت وقت اللي جواد
جواد علي المقداد بقول له انه كلنا حنلحقه هنيئا له كلنا حنلحقه ونحن بهذا الطريق كلنا فداء حسين وكلنا هادي ابا هادي.
Who was Hassan Nasrallah?
He was a leader of Hezbollah. He was somebody who...
Yeah, so there you go. These people support Hassan Nasrallah. They're absolute psychos. This is a guy who's partly responsible for the genocide in Syria, where nearly 300, at least minimum calculation is 350,000 innocent civilians were killed. Hezbollah helped the Assad regime kill civilians. And again, like I mentioned before, they kidnapped thousands of fucking women from Syria and turned them into sex slaves for their human trafficking operation.
Who actually rebuilt Hezbollah after his predecessors were assassinated. Basically, the Israelis just recently assassinated him through an airstrike.
Palestinian militant group Hamas said Nasrallah's killing would only strengthen its resistance.
نحن قبلانين اللي عم بيصير ونحن
Oh, that aged like fucking milk. Oh, there we go. This guy's a terrorist. They're literally interviewing a terrorist. Listen to what this kid's saying.
Only strengthen its resistance.
نحن قبلانين اللي عم
We agree with what is happening.
ونحن بدنا نموت.
We want to die.
بدنا نستشهد.
We want to be martyred. Okay, well, Israel will kindly oblige. If you want to fuck with Israel, kill innocent fucking people, support a terror group that's genociding fucking Arabs in Syria, and, human trafficking, drug dealing, then Israel would be happy to oblige your death wish. Have fun with the fucking 72 virgins in heaven. Israel will blow you the fuck up if you keep fucking with Israel. Why would anyone give any kind of sympathy to these psychotic fucking dickbags? He literally just said, we support terrorism, we want to die so we can get 72 virgins in heaven. Why is anyone upset?
كرمال شو؟ كرمال اهل البيت وكرمال الحسين، كرمال كل حدا استشهد عنا بالحزب. ونحن بدنا نكفي هذا الطريق، هلا الحرب ما حتنتهي بسرعه، واهداف اللي بده اياها المقاومه ما حدا يقبل فيها، بتمنى انه يزول ينتصر الحق على الباطل ويبطل في شيء اسمه اسرائيل.
Wow.
يلا هي اسمها شانل 5 مش منيه ولا اجنبيه بس احنا طالبين اسم منها لا بس انت زعما نقطه هذه بعد لا مش انت مش انت ولا العربيه ولا ستانجز عربيه.
Thankfully, our guest correspondent talked his way out of that one. But the point is, this young man's rapid transition from grief to vengeance perfectly illustrates why the Israeli bombardment of civilian areas may ultimately backfire on them and exponentially multiply the cycle of revenge that's consumed the Middle East for so long.
Oh my god, dude. Jews are supposed to die. They don't deserve to live. Apparently, if Israel gets attacked by terrorists and they kill thousands of civilians, well, Israel's just supposed to, put up with it. Because if they don't, well, you're going to make the terrorists angry. And then they're going to want to kill you even more. Fuck Channel 5, dude. This is anti-Semitic propaganda.
There's no bombing your way out of this problem. I mean, there's no way of killing your way out of this situation. I do think what's going to happen, though, is if the bombing continues, you're still going to get recruitment into these organizations.
Again, this aged like milk. This just aged like milk. Right, there's no way to destroy Hezbollah because you're going to make everybody angry that you killed a terrorist group that was trying to kill Jews, and then they're going to want to kill Jews more because you tried to defend yourself. So it just creates a cycle of violence. So when Jews get attacked, just suck it up and die. Yeah, right.
A lot of 17, 18, 19-year-old people join these organizations because basically they're the meanest sons of bitches on the block. For somebody who's had difficulties all his life, the idea being, I'm going to join the meanest son of bitches possible. We're going to be part of the meanest gang in the Middle East. And you see that much more of a motivation than religious motivation, actually.
Oh yes, this 5'5" tall dipshit with a gay ass fucking haircut. Right, I'm so terrified of him joining Hezbollah. Ooh, imagine how much damage he's gonna do. I wonder if he's gonna wear that pretty necklace into battle. Ooh, I'm so scared. Right, get bombed, dipshit.
In addition to targeting civilian areas, Israel has also deliberately targeted American journalists who set out to document the conflict in Lebanon. Here's a story as told by American photojournalist Dylan Collins, who fell victim to an indiscriminate airstrike in the southern border region. Viewer discretion is advised.
To break it down for you, we arrived at this spot around 5 that day, and it's a big plume of smoke in front of us. We were at a safe distance, 2 kilometers away. I've covered conflict for more than 10 years. This to me seemed like a super safe area, relatively given the context. We were exposed to multiple Israeli positions on the border. There were drones circling us overhead. An audio analysis of my video showed that an Israeli drone circled us 11 times in the last 25 minutes before we were hit. We were wearing press vests. One of the cars had press written on it. We had 3 live broadcasts going out to 3 international news agencies. They could see us. I felt like we were safe. The fact that we could be seen was a good thing. But apparently it turned us into a target.
This is psychotic. By the way, friendly fire happens all the time. There's actually a big thing recently where Israel fired on some of their own troops. Does Israel have a political interest in attacking their own military? Probably not. What is the political interest in attacking foreign journalists? Nothing? If they really didn't want foreign journalists to report on this, they could just tell them to fuck off. You're not allowed into the country. You're not allowed into some of these zones. So why would they create a situation where foreign journalists are in this region, they don't want them there, and the solution is to fire upon them and then get criticized by the press more? Like this narrative just doesn't make any fucking sense, and it's just monstrously fucking stupid. How, like again, when it's a Jew, when something can be attributed to stupidity or like it just being an accident, no. If it's a Jew that did it, it's malice. Jews are evil. Anytime they fuck up, do something stupid, make a mistake, they're evil. It's not just stupidity or a mistake. It couldn't possibly be an accident. We all know Jews are evil, so it has to be evil.
It seems almost as if journalists are wearing a target on their back. And there have been cases in which it seems that they've been shot deliberately.
By
IDF.
And IDF doesn't want the news being reported.
Not in that way.
Okay. The news being reported.
Not in that way.
Okay.
Well, because the news has been tilted against the IDF.
The first strike.
Then why do they let them into the country anyway? Like, this is just so ridiculous. They don't have to do that. I hate this Channel 5 dude. He's an anti-Semite.
Came out of nowhere. Came from behind us. Big impacts. Like I saw flames and sparks kind of in my peripheral vision, and I was blown back a little bit. And I just heard Christina screaming, like, what happened? What happened? Fuck, I can't feel my legs. And my blood went cold. I turned around and I saw her on the ground, and her legs were like blown apart at the knees. So I ran towards her, and I had 2 tourniquets with me. And I knew if I didn't get tourniquets on both legs, she's going to bleed out quickly. She's losing a lot of blood. So I got down and started putting a tourniquet onto one of her legs, and sliding up towards the knee to tighten it. But before I could even tighten it, the second strike came, hit the car from Al Jazeera. That exploded. I was injured in that strike. Carmen from Al Jazeera was injured. Ili from Al Jazeera was injured. Blew a part of his shoulder. The 2 other Reuters guys were injured as well. We kind of lost the plot. I was super concussed from that second blast. And then like my foggy memory, I'm hovering over Christina, who's bleeding and then screaming, fuck, what happened? And I look up after the second blast and I see like a leg lying in front of me, which turned out to be the leg of Isam, who was hit by the first blast. And it's just like it's hard to put into words to that.
There you go, everybody. That's the definitive proof that Jews are evil. We should be supporting Hezbollah that, helped Assad massacre his own people, sex traffic thousands of women. That's the only logical conclusion we can come to.
That kind of strike on a group of clearly marked journalists. There are other ways to get people to...
Clearly marked journalists. I don't know how they identified this news agency, but if they're several kilometers up in the air with a drone or a helicopter, who the fuck knows what, and they see itty bitty things on the ground and they're misidentified, it's not like they have a perfect zoomed in picture of who these people are. I don't know how they were identified, but why are we attributing malice to something that could just be attributed to stupidity or just a simple fucking easy mistake to make? Attributed to stupidity, or just a simple fucking easy mistake to make. Retard Richard donated $2. Am I anti-Semitic for saying I don't give a fuck if both sides die? Majority of Israel isn't vegan. Maybe you're a fucking idiot. Give a fuck, dude.
Turn off their cameras instead of firing 2 tank shells at them directly. They could have sent messages to our phones. They have the capabilities and the technology to do that. They could have fired into the air. They could have dropped leaflets. They've been dropping leaflets.
This is no different than saying, I don't care if the Nazis win World War II or if America wins World War II. They're both evil. They're both racist. They both eat animals. Like, you're a fucking idiot. Just get fucked. Like, I don't even know why the fuck you're on my YouTube channel if you're, like literally have kindergarten level logic. Everyone's bad. Everyone's evil. No one's vegan. I don't have any political interest whatsoever because every political group is bad. I don't care. If you don't care, then get the fuck out of my chat. Leave. Why are you saying this? Go fuck yourself.
But they fired 2 tank shells at us and then followed it up with nearly 2 minutes of 50 caliber weapon fire. I mean, if that's not war crime, I'm not really sure what is. Since we were hit, there's been
Here we go.
more than 120 journalists that have been killed in very similar circumstances. We've seen journalist families, like the homes of journalists being bombed in Gaza. We've seen journalist offices in Gaza being bombed.
I wonder if it has anything to do with Hamas militants being part of Al Jazeera. Couldn't possibly have anything to do with that, right? Oh, wait, yeah. The Al Jazeera journalist was keeping Israeli hostages captive in his apartment.
If the goal is to reduce coverage of the war, then they're clearly succeeding.
I mean...
Again, this doesn't make any logical sense. They could just refuse entry to foreign journalists. If they didn't want coverage, why would they allow foreign journalists in and then kill them? It's stupid.
This is a horrific situation. I mean, more journalists have been killed in the Gaza war.
Even if you're going to say Jews are evil, you cannot say Jews are stupid. So why would they do something so fucking stupid when there are far easier ways for them to deal with like this kind of reporting if they don't like it. Sure, if you're an anti-Semite, go on ahead, say Jews are evil. But like, you can't call them fucking stupid. They're anything but stupid. This idea is so stupid.
Than any of the other Arab-Israeli wars or any of the other wars between Israel and Hamas or Israel and Hezbollah.
To put it into perspective, in World War II or in Vietnam, there wasn't even a fraction of the amount of journalists killed as have been killed in the past year. It makes you lose faith in the industry that you work in and the power to...
Yeah, so was Vietnam an urban conflict that was occurring in the most densely populated region on the planet? This guy's a cuck. Go fuck yourself, dude, you pencil-neck fucking little weasel. You're built like a fucking daffodil. Fucking gay-ass little bitch mustache. Don't even have a beard, you bitch.
Speak truth to power, to influence opinion. It's been a real hell of a year.
I feel like at this juncture we should back up a bit and explain why things have escalated so fast in Lebanon over the course of the past few months.
One day after the Hamas attack on Israel on October the 7th, Hezbollah officially entered the war.
After the October 7th attacks, in which Hamas killed over 1,200 Israelis, Hezbollah began their attacks the next day and have since fired over 8,000 rockets into Israel. They claim to be doing this in solidarity with Hamas, but it was likely at the instruction of Iran. Both Hamas and Hezbollah are aligned by what is called the Axis of Resistance, an Iran-backed military coalition, which provides a network of self-proclaimed Islamic resistance groups with weapons and bombs.
I think that for the most part, the Iranians view this as playing defense. The destruction of Israel is something that every once in a while gets talked about, but
oh my God.
The whole idea of supporting Hamas and Hezbollah and other groups as well is the idea that these groups are going to be protecting Iran. Israel is not going to.
Oh, please. This guy just loves to give terrorist organizations the most the most charitability possible. Has nothing to do with these regimes being fascist. Nothing to do with them just wanting to exterminate Jews from planet Earth because of like fucking radical Islam or anything like that. They just want to protect themselves. Well, how's that working out for you? You attack Israel, you get bombed to fucking oblivion. Israel has absolutely fucked over Hamas, Hezbollah with the fucking pager attack, the airstrikes. Hezbollah literally has no operational capability whatsoever. They couldn't even help Assad in Syria. Iran is getting fucking bombed by Israel now. Their nuclear program is getting fucking destroyed. If their whole goal was to defend themselves, well, you completely failed at that objective, didn't you? All of your fucking terror proxies are fucking destroyed, and now your actual country is getting fucking attacked, and your nuclear program just got fucking blown up. Fucking politicians in Iran have been fucking assassinated. If the goal was defense, then why the fuck are you attacking Israel? If it's defense, you're like doing things like putting up a shield, you know, like an iron dome or something. You're not attacking, you're just doing things that protect you. How does bombing Israel count as fucking defense, you moron? It's just like Vladimir Putin saying, oh, the reason we invaded Ukraine was to stop NATO enlargement. Well, after they attacked Ukraine, NATO enlarged. Now there's more countries bordering Russia that are aligned with NATO. Same thing. So if that's your objective, maybe you got to figure out it's a bad idea to attack Israel. Like, what a stupid fucking narrative to promote.
I tend to be a paranoid person. Do you...
The random go.
To be able to strike against Iran if, for example, they're going to be preoccupied in the north and south and in various other places as well. The Iranians don't really have much control over the axis of resistance except to, basically finance them and to build up their strength and to have them serve as sort of deterrent force against Israel.
After October 7th, eliminating Hamas took priority for Israel for obvious reasons, and so they more or less were ignoring the Hezbollah threat in the north. But once Hamas top leadership had been killed, Netanyahu decided it was go time. Israel began their newest offensive on Hezbollah about 2.5 months ago, on September 17th, 2024, which they kicked off by somehow...
Are they going to complain about the 2 children who died? They're going to, aren't they? I can sense it. This was the most targeted military operation probably ever committed of all of humanity. Minimal civilian casualties considering the amount of attritional losses to the militant group. They're going to whine and bitch and complain about 2 stupid fucking kids who died, who were the sons of fucking horrible fucking terrorists. Again, these are the children of a terrorist organization who is trying to exterminate all Jews. They're no different from the fucking Nazis. They tried to massacre fucking Christians in their fucking nations, and they successfully turned Lebanon from a majority Christian to majority Muslim fucking nation. They helped Assad commit a genocide in Syria. They've sex trafficked thousands of fucking women, where innocent women were kidnapped and forced to become fucking prostitutes and sex slaves. And they do international fucking drug trafficking, and we're whining about kids of terrorists from this organization dying? Fuck those kids. They were destined to become pieces of shit just like their fucking parents, and we're whining about 2 fucking stupid kids? Like, would you be sad if Hitler's kids died? If the only way to take out Hitler was to blow him up along with his kids, would we be crying? Oh my god, you committed a war crime. You killed Hitler's kids. Like I could give a fucking shit.
walkie-talkies into the hands of Hezbollah militants, a quote-unquote security disaster that killed roughly 50 people, around half of which were civilians.
There might have been something in terms of the...
I'm sorry, what? Where did he get that number from? So he's just lying. He's literally just fucking lying. He made that up. He's claiming the fucking pager and walkie-talkie attacks, half of the fucking deaths were civilian? Fuck this guy. He literally made that up.
The Israelis able to interrupt the supply chain for the people.
I can't believe that. I thought he was just going to make a big deal about the two stupid kids who died. My God, he literally goes as far as making up fucking horse shit.
Factoring the pagers and walkie-talkies as well. But again, this is still something that's quite murky.
Since then, it's been non-stop back and forth rocket fire between towns along the border.
Yeah, Channel 5 is just a full-on anti-Semite. This guy's a fucking scumbag.
Past 2 months alone, 3,000 people have been killed in Lebanon. In response, Hezbollah has claimed the lives of 120 Israelis.
It's the deadly...
Like, by the way, good job, dipshit. One of your worst viewed videos of all time. Every other fucking video, like over 1 million views. But the one video you decide to talk shit about fucking Israel, spread fucking Nazi terrorist propaganda, you get about 500,000 fucking views. Like, less than half of what you fucking average. Good work, dipshit. What, like, you literally traveled to Israel, paid fucking translators and cameramen from foreign countries to do this. I'm sure this is one of the most costly videos he's ever fucking made. Probably didn't make much money from it, if anything. He probably lost money. So good job. Anti-Semitism pays off, doesn't it, fuckface?
Drone attack Hezbollah has carried out against Israel in over a year.
And it's safe to say the death toll in Israel would have been much higher without the Iron Dome defense system.
The INF system is an anti-missile defense system. And it's not only been effective in terms of these various rockets, but also in terms of drones. And there's another system that they use for ballistic missiles that was used recently when Iran fired ballistic missiles at Israel.
Israel is on the defensive here in their country as missiles are being launched from Iran.
Perhaps the most devastating loss suffered by Hezbollah was the death of their leader, Hassan Nasrallah, who died during an Israeli airstrike on the group's headquarters in Bahia. Since then, other Israeli airstrikes have killed many of the group's top commanders and enforcers. However, some are still alive. Here's an interview with a senior official in Hezbollah who would like to remain anonymous due to safety concerns, but felt compelled to give an interview to Channel 5 because he's tired of Hezbollah's message being obscured by what he calls compromised Western media.
Yes, there we go. I love how they introduce this guy. He's a top Hezbollah official, and Western media, they all lie, they all, spread mistruths about this conflict. He's this terrorist who wants to exterminate all Jews from the planet, who helped fucking Assad genocide his own fucking people, who's part of a fucking criminal international sex trafficking and drug trafficking ring. He is about to tell you the truth about this conflict. This is how he introduces the guy before the fucking interview. Can you fucking imagine that? Imagine a foreign news, a foreign independent news agency traveling to fucking Germany and interviewing like Himmler and saying, a lot of American media is misrepresenting the Nazis and the conflict in World War II. Here's Himmler, the orchestrator of the fucking Holocaust, who's going to tell you what's really going on here. That would be fucking unconscionable, but this fucking dickhead, because anti-Semitism is so popular, figured he could make some fucking bucks promoting anti-Semitism and platforming a fucking terrorist, acting as though this guy has some unique, truthful insights that you're not hearing from fucking mainstream Western media. Fuck you, you fucking asshole. Like, holy shit, if only Israel could figure out where you fucking live and blow up your fucking smartphone. What an asshole. Death of Rabbit donating $2. Really appreciate you exposing people for being anti-Semites, but I think sometimes you throw around the word too much. People just are misinformed or just retarded or a small fraction of the time instead of actually hating Jews, not always anti-Semitism. It is always anti-Semitism. Look, so any kind of news that you see that targets a certain group of people, like best recent example of this was the Haitians eating cats and dogs. You could say, well, not everybody who is spreading that disinformation that Haitians are eating cats and dogs are racist. Well, aren't they? Who do you think are the types of people who would believe that at face value? Racists, white supremacists, people who have a bias against black people, immigrants in general, people who are just inherently xenophobic. Those are the kinds of people who are going to believe in misinformation like that Haitians are eating cats and dogs. No, this is no different. The types of people who are going to believe this horse shit that organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah, they're just trying to defend themselves. They're not really terrorist organizations. They're just trying to defend their nations from Israel, who is an oppressive apartheid regime. The people who are anti-Semitic, have a bias against Jews, those are the types of people who are going to believe this nonsense. It is inherently anti-Semitic, and the only types of people who would get sucked in and believe that fucking garbage are anti-Semites. Somebody who is a sane, rational human being that doesn't have any biases for or against Jews, when they hear that, they're going to say, well, I haven't done my own research and I'd have to look into it. I don't know if that's true or not. But that's not what these people are doing. These people are seeking out fucking terrorists that want to exterminate all Jews, have participated in fucking genocides against innocent fucking civilians, have sex trafficked thousands of fucking women, and they're seeking these people out and trying to fucking interview them, and before the interview, they're trying to legitimize their fucking position and gaslight their audience into believing this is a reasonable, sane, rational human being who is about to speak the truth, and Western media is lying to you. So no, it is all anti-Semitic. Channel 5 are a bunch of fucking anti-Semites, and anyone who seeks out interviews with terrorists that are literal Nazis, they want to exterminate fucking Jews, they've participated in actual fucking genocides, helping the Assad regime in Syria, sex traffic fucking women, and you're trying to legitimize their political beliefs? You're a fucking anti-Semite. Thanks for the donation, Death of Rabbit.
Media.
We are against the Zionist movement, but not against the Jews. We are with the oppressed of the world. Well, Israel.
So this is a lie. This guy is media trained. Hassan Nasrallah has stated explicitly that he hopes all of the world's Jews would gather in Israel so that he wouldn't have to, go to the ends of the earth to track down every Jew and kill them. So no, Hezbollah, it has dedicated itself to killing as many Jews as possible. That is why, by the way, when Hezbollah was launching rocket attacks into Israel starting on October 8th, they were using unguided rockets. They were just launching rockets willy-nilly with no guidance systems. Who the fuck knows where they're going to go? And they were planning on those rockets just killing civilians. So no, they hate Jews. If the only dispute they had was against Zionism and they just wanted to topple the Israeli government, they wouldn't be launching unguided rockets where they're just trying to kill as many civilians as possible. And on top of that, that whole statement is completely and utterly oxymoronic. How in the hell do you not have a problem with Jews, but you're against Zionism? What would happen if the state of Israel collapsed? You would see a second Holocaust. So it's just a lie. Again, this guy introduced this fucking terrorist as a reasonable, sensible person who's going to tell you the truth, and he's fucking lying. And this dipshit from Channel 5, Andrew Callahan, is trying to fucking gaslight his fucking audience into thinking, oh, Hezbollah is just they're freedom fighters. Is he still alive? God damn it. Death of Rabbit donated $2. So according to the narrative they are fed, Israel is literally a mass murdering children. You don't think they are retarded and don't know how to research and can only take at face value. To you, that's racist. That's retardation from a small fractions of supporters. Why would you believe Jews are deliberately mass murdering women and children? The only reason you'd believe that is if you're anti-Semitic. If I told you Chinese immigrants are killing Christian children and eating their babies, if I were to tell you black people are part of some child sex trafficking satanic cult, like if I were to just tell you absurd things like this, would you just believe that? Like, the only people who'd believe those things are people who are inherently racist and have a bias against these people, like the Chinese or black people. So no, the people who buy these stupid stories that Israel's committing a genocide, they're anti-Semites. The reason they just believe that at face value is because they already have a bias against Israel. There's no other reason to believe that at face value. Like, again, if I were to tell these people, hey, did you know that their dragons were sighted flying over the Empire State Building? Oh, hey, did you hear? Aliens landed at Washington, D.C. Do you think they'd believe me? No. And again, you would find some people who would believe that because they're fucking crazy and they have a bias, towards UFO stories. I'm sure I could find people who, if I told them aliens landed in Washington, D.C., they'd just straight up believe me. And again, it's because they have a bias and they want it to be true and they want aliens to be real. The only people who believe in stories like this, like aliens landed in Washington, D.C., or Jews are committing a genocide, are people who have a bias to believing these things because they either have like a pro-UFO bias or they have a pro-anti-Israel, anti-Jew bias. Thanks for the donation, Death Rabbit.
Conquered Lebanon. It was necessary for the Shia to establish a party to defend itself. And thus, Hezbollah was founded in the 9th of 1982. And the goal was to defend Lebanon and to expel.
The formation of Hezbollah had nothing to do with defending Lebanon. Lebanon already had a military, so that's complete and utter bullshit.
The conqueror from our land, as the French resistance did and liberated France from the Nazis. We are the same.
Before proceeding, I think it's worth it to give a disclaimer. Here at Channel 5, we do not espouse, advocate for, promote, or condone any groups that use violence to achieve political gain. There are a number of...
Oh, well, there you go. Hey guys, this fucking terrorist, who's part of a group that's participated in a genocide and wants to kill all Jews, he's about to tell you the actual truth about their organization and their political goals and the conflict in this region. Oh, by the way, we don't support any terror, like any groups that use violence to achieve their goals. Right. YouTube should ban this fucking channel. Ban this fucking asshole, ban Hassan. At this point, he's no better than Hassan.
Falsehoods and inaccuracies being laid out in the following interview, all of which are diligently fact-checked by Professor Gelb, who is a scholar with extensive knowledge of Lebanese history. All right, let's get into it.
Where was Hezbollah founded? When Sykes people divided the Arab countries, Britain brought the Jews to nationalize them in Palestine and achieve their interests. And it founded the Baha'i movement in Iran, just right at the Shia. And they've also founded the Ahmadi movement in North Africa. And the Wahhabis in Saudi.
Sykes-Picot Agreement was an agreement between the British and French during World War I to divide up the Middle East. And the thing about it is that it's always blamed for the problems of the Middle East now, that the Europeans divided it up and, between the French and the British, and this is why they drew the borders there and so on and so forth. Sykes-Picot Agreement was never implemented.
Sykes-Picot was never implemented.
It was never implemented. And none of this stuff happened. So what divided the region? What divided the region was a mandate system. Palestine, that whole area actually, had been under Ottoman control for 400 years. And then with World War I, the Ottomans were defeated, and the British and the French took over administrative control of the areas that are now Palestine, Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. And the idea was these people aren't ready to govern themselves, so therefore we have to guide them in the path of civilization. And the only two that have remained in effect have been the division between Lebanon and Syria. All the other divisions have fallen away.
And in general, you know how the Jews colonized Palestine and took over. Would you accept that France could be taken over? What did the French resistance do? Do you accept someone stealing your home? We are like that in Lebanon.
This is completely and utterly ahistorical. So Jews had every right to immigrate into Palestine, or the region called Palestine at the time. They legally bought up land. They legally immigrated. There was no country called Palestine at that point in time. They weren't an actual country. Everything he's fucking saying is just so stupid.
Israel took over Palestine. They conquered a part of Lebanon, what is known as the 7 villages.
According to the Hezbollah commander, the definitive starting point of Israeli aggression on the Lebanese people began in 1948 when they forcefully annexed and expelled the residents of 7 Shia Muslim villages along the border of what was then Mandatory Palestine, a British territory, sending the villagers into Lebanon as refugees. These border towns were known as the 7 villages and comprised basically the only community of Shia Muslims in Mandatory Palestine. The greater region that once contained these villages is called the Galilee, which was depopulated by Israel when they declared statehood in 1948.
The campaign in the Galilee in 1948, what the Israelis called the War of Independence and what the Palestinians called the Nakba. In the Galilee, that was a ethnic cleansing took place. And Shiites from these particular villages were expelled into Lebanon by the Israeli forces.
Despite these 7 villages being in British-mandated Palestine back then, the residents even...
I wonder if any of it had to do with them starting a war with Israel first. Again, none of these people would have ended up getting expelled if they didn't go to war with Israel. Everybody would be living there happily, no problems, but yeah, they decided to fuck around and find out.
And back then, considered themselves to be Lebanese. That's because in the 1920s, the villages were part of Lebanon. Well, French occupied Lebanon until 1924 when British and French diplomats did a land trade.
There was a certain negotiation that took place, and the border was fixed at a different border in 1922 or 23, the Bole-Nukem line. And this line included the 7 villages in the British zone of Palestine, as opposed to what it had been, which was in the French zone, which got divided up into Lebanon, Syria.
And so the villages became part of mandated Palestine, which was owned by Britain, who would later be sympathetic to Israeli occupation in 1948. So the residents went from Lebanese French subjects to Palestinian British subjects to ethnically Lebanese Palestinian half-citizens raised under British rule, then exiled by Israelis to live a life as refugees in Lebanon, which is the country they wanted to be from in the first place.
Now, the whole thing was a mess after the First World War in terms of what the French were attempting to do. The French, for example, took the area that they were mandated, the so-called Syria mandate, and divided up into 6 subunits at one point.
But here's the point. Hezbollah in their own mythology sees themselves as defenders of the now non-existent 7 Shia villages in mandated Palestine. And in their speeches, they promise to liberate these areas in North Israel that are now either mounds of dirt or Israeli shopping centers and return them to their Lebanese sovereignty.
The operational plan to conquer the Galilee was first aired in Nasrallah's announcement on February 16, 2011.
And so at this point, what we...
I don't know how anybody could see that as anything more than a cynical ploy. You think this guy, who's like, what, maybe 40, 50-ish in that area, gives a fucking shit that a border region around between Lebanon and Palestine was shifted slightly back in like the 1920s or 30s? Like, no. And he's dealing with this now in 2011. Like, it's a cynical ploy to justify attacking Israel because they want to kill Jews.
See as a contestation of who has a right to these various villages. Hezbollah claims that it's still part of Lebanon. The French had no right, if they did give it away, they had no right to give it away. This is basically a, shall we say, excuse for it.
yes, the Jews stole our dirt. We had those rocks and dirt on that hill, and the Jews took it from us. We weren't doing anything with it, but we were planning on doing something. We were going to build shopping mall, amusement park, water park. There were going to be roller coasters, and the Jews stole our rocks and our dirt. Death to dirty Jews! Those are our rocks and dirt! You die, Jews! Like, yeah, right. This is just a cynical ploy to justify killing Jews. When they get hyped up and start shouting Allahu Akbar and all this crap, they let it slip. Hassan Nasrallah did publicly state that he wants to kill all Jews, and he would hope that they all get rounded up in Israel so he doesn't have to travel to other countries to exterminate them. They're all in Israel, so he can just kill them all in one fell swoop. We know. They've admitted this. They've let it slip. They just want to kill Jews. You really think these people care about a little patch of land that's nothing but rocks and dirt? Yeah, right. It's just a joke.
Continuing their operations in the south.
Do any other sects in Lebanon care much about the villages?
I would tend to doubt that.
But for Hezbollah, and this commander particularly, Israel's depopulation of the villages was the first strike in a subsequent series of psychopathic colonial actions that crescendo into Israel's invasion of Lebanon in 1982.
They conquered a part of Lebanon, what is known as the Seven Villages, and it kept terrorizing and striking Lebanon. The aggression increased, and the Lebanese state was weak and couldn't repeal the aggression. Israel attacked and invaded Lebanon until it reached Beirut, and no Arab or foreign country stood with Lebanon, except Syria. And where was the Islamic Revolution, led by Imam Khomeini in Iran, where before it was an American stronghold? They cut off Americans' hand, and it became a revolution that supported every oppressed human.
Khomeini played his cards very, very well. Basically, there was all sorts of reasons. He was able to create a narrative of the Persian nation, Iranian nation, that was based in Islam, the Shia nation, etc., etc. Basically was able to pose Iran as a oppressed country in the global structure. And so this was sort of like a winning narrative for Khomeini. Nobody realized the brutality of the Islamic Republic against its own population.
The resistance and Hezbollah started growing, and after the Syrian and Iranian help, they started growing bit by bit until they freed their country. Operations were small but started growing and increasing in numbers until liberation came in the year 2000. The Zionist armies fell back, and so Hezbollah was founded to defend its country.
Israel officially withdrew from southern Lebanon on May 24th, 2000. Hezbollah takes credit for driving Israel out of Lebanon.
Certainly does, and basically there's a lot of credit to be taken for that.
For Hezbollah, this was more than a military victory, but grand defeat in Western Imperial.
By the way, again, the only reason Israel invaded was because the PLO fled into Lebanon and started firing rockets into Israel. That's why Israel invaded in the fucking first place.
Imperialism for the entire Islamic world.
When Britain planted Israel, or this temporary entity in the Middle East, they did so to control its riches. They took over all the Gulf's oil and riches, especially in Lebanon and Syria. To take over these riches, they divided the countries and planted strife. And after the liberation, Britain and America wanted to destroy Lebanon for the sake of Israel. It is true they destroyed a large portion of Lebanon, but Hezbollah were victorious. We defeated Israel, and when we did, they decided to strike Iran and Syria. This was admitted by Ehud Olmert and Hillary Clinton. We must also mention that America founded Al-Qaeda and Bin Laden in Afghanistan to put pressure on the Soviet Union.
We armed the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, and they turned on us and created Al-Qaeda.
That's true?
That is true, yeah. But this isn't true.
They founded Al-Qaeda, and it spread as a Muslim outfit, and it started committing heinous terrorist attack attributed to Muslims. But Muslims are the opposite of that. Islam preaches compassion and acknowledges Christianity and Judaism, and humanity too. We see humans as humans. We don't care if they are Christians, Jews, Buddhists, or anything.
Right, that's why you massacred Christians and made them all flee out of fucking Lebanon. Because you don't care if anybody's Christian, Jew, Buddhist, anything. Right. Please explain to me why Lebanon was majority Christian, and then when Hezbollah took over, suddenly all the Christians started dying and then fled Lebanon. Why did that happen if you love all these other religions and treat them equally? Weird. Isn't that weird? Like, my God.
I hate how the LGBTQ community defends Palestine mostly. Like, even if we were to say that Israel is committing war crimes, in a future plan for the region it only makes sense to support the country that defends gay rights, not throw them off buildings.
Why? Well, yeah, obviously. Thanks for the donation, dude.
Wow. Even Hassan hasn't made a whole documentary. I mean, he's spread more anti-Semitism, but this is just going in raw.
Yeah, it's retarded. Thanks for the donation, Matt Muffin. Like, are they going to bring that up, by the way? Like, are they going to fact check him on any of these, like, important points that makes you understand what Hezbollah is? Like, they're not bringing up the fact that they helped support Assad committed genocide in Syria. They're not talking about the human trafficking, drug trafficking. They're not talking about... They did mention that they probably... Well, they said probably, which I think is just weak words. They assassinated Lebanese politicians, including the prime minister. But they didn't bring up the fact that they actually threatened politicians with death. They basically strong-arm them. And they still haven't mentioned that they literally drove out all the Christians from Lebanon. Like, are they going to fact-check that and bring that up?
Anything else?
The commander also believes that ISIS was an American proxy, set up to destabilize Syria and eliminate Hezbollah.
When Israel was pushed back into...
So they're not fact-checking that lie. Great. So they're making Hezbollah out to be noble freedom fighters.
They decided to destroy Syria. So they founded ISIS. All their leaders are American intelligence. They founded ISIS under the guise of Islam, and they started attacking everywhere with Nusra Front and others. And all of them are terrorist movements founded by American and Israelis. America planted ISIS and fought them. They made ISIS their excuse to keep their American bases in Arab countries, saying they're fighting the terrorism that they created. When ISIS took over Syria, we saw that their goal was to destroy Hezbollah and the Syrian state. We saw all these terrorists and realized that when ISIS was done with Syria, they were coming to Lebanon, and we went into Syria and fought ISIS.
With this operation, Hezbollah...
No. You were just friends with a Syrian dictator, Assad, probably because he was also friendly with Russia, who Russia also helps Hezbollah, and they're also friendly with, they're all buddies. So no, you didn't just go into Syria to fight ISIS. You were just trying to protect the Assad regime because, again, Assad was helping Iran's proxies.